What's a sexual kink that you were into but not anymore? Pee fetish. I was your regular hormone-raged 15-year-old, pumping hours upon hours into scouring the godforsaken depths of the internet for all sorts of nasty, nut-worthy, adult films, anal, feet, BDSM, etc. Were getting too vanilla for this filth connoisseur. That's when I came across some video with the thumbnail being a blonde bombshell sticking her tongue out and the title Golden Shower, and my interest peaked. I was beyond enthralled at the discovery, oblivious to the fact that those words were merely gilded and that there was nothing golden about that shower. The video grossed me out so much that I closed the tab right away and just zoned out for a complete minute reflecting on my life choices. This fetish was not for me. Or so I thought. As time went on, I kept getting flashbacks from the video about how the girl was enjoying it so much. It started to grow on me. I started watching more of such videos, and all that pee really took me down a slippery slope. I just couldn't get over the fact that these girls enjoyed pee so much. It was kind of hot. What was it? Was it the warmth? Was it the taste? I had to know. I think that's when the fetish evolved from wanting to be the hose to wanting to be the bucket. Stepped in the shower. The very last remnants of my brain cells quickly kicked in and created a problem that would make me want to reconsider. How would I even pee in my mouth while standing or sitting? The pee stream will not have enough pressure to even hit my chin. Should I lie down? I can't lie down on the bathroom floor. It'd be so uncomfortable and dirty. That should have been enough to stop me. Right? Nope. I wanted that homemade lemon juice goodness right in my face even if I had to lie down with my legs over my shoulder with my back resting against the wall. I prepared myself, decided that I would keep my mouth closed initially, then as I get into it, I'll open the gates and let my mouth flood. I was ready. As I started peeing, the warm pee stream quickly went from my chin to my lips to my nose and into my nostrils and down my throat. Yep, I was fucked. I don't know what was stronger, the dreadful feeling of drowning in my own piss or the awfully bitter taste of it. My mouth involuntarily opened to catch some breath and I tried to get out of the awkward position at the same time. Wrong move. Pee blast right on my soft palate. All of my 10,000 taste buds violated with the taste again. I frantically tried to save myself from choking on my own vomit and ended up falling on my side, coughing and gagging while my penis still dripped. I washed myself while avoiding eye contact with the mirror. I couldn't let myself see me like that. My throat and nostrils still burned with irritation. It was like some corrosive acid had burned through my system. It's been 7 years since the incident, and every now and then I'll stare at my reflection in the pee-filled toilet bowl water, thinking about how it has tainted my insides and my soul. I used to really love pain. It was kind of a problem where I couldn't have an orgasm unless I was in pain. My then GF used to make me cry from pain and we both loved it. We stopped doing it when I got roommates, since I couldn't exactly act out my torture porn fantasies when there were people in the apartment trying to sleep or study. And once we moved into our own place it had been so long that I had been weaned off the need for pain during sex. We tried it, but it just hurt in the uncomfortable way and I didn't like it anymore. It's kind of a good thing, because now I can enjoy vanilla sex, even though I sometimes miss the intense pleasure I got from being in pain. I'm a kinky bastard. That said, when the opportunity to be tickled in a scene came up, I was intrigued. So I got into the sling, naked, had my wrists and ankles strapped down, blindfolded. I was tickled for 30 minutes straight. At the end of it all, I actually ended up snapping one of my restraints because I was bucking so hard, and when I got let down my brain fucking blue-screened. I was totally overwhelmed. I could not process anything. So while my friends were having sex and sitting around me I sat on the ground crisscross applesauce just existing in blue brain limbo. It was utterly and wholly unique, and I've never gone back to that. I was interested in consensual non-consent. I talked it out with my partner at the time, and we had agreed on a safe word. It worked a few times and I was into it, except that one time where he overpowered me when I wasn't ready and anally penetrated me, not stopping when I used the safe word. I was into it until I was actually raped. Fuck you, Brent. I know you have a Reddit account and I hope you see this. Edit. The outpouring of love and support from this post is unreal. I've also gotten messages saying that this happened to them too. Consent is key, and he didn't have mine. All my love to each and every one of you three, and I'm always here if you want to talk. I'm 24 now, and the older I get the weirder that is. When I was in college, knew women that were dating dudes in their 40s and I was like, good for them. I'd date 20-year-olds too at that age if I could, but now that I'm out of college and a few years older, I'm just like, WTF, these 18-20-year-olds are basically still kids, lol. Edit. Wow, this is my highest upvoted comment ever. Just want to clarify that I do think relationships with age gaps like this can work, but it's incredibly uncommon and uncomfortable to me personally most of the time. I dated a 23-year-old when I was 19 and still looking back, don't feel like that was predatory or weird. We were just both at the same level mentally, so it worked out. I used to go to a local porn shop with the girl I dated, and I'd watch her suck dicks through the video booth glory hole. Blowing anonymous cocks got her super horny. I loved watching her do it, and we'd go home and screw like industrial machines after. I've never done it with anyone since her, and a while after we broke up she called me crying to tell me that her fiancé had dumped her on the spot when she suggested they do it together and that she'd done it before. She said it was my fault for making her do that. So I've never mentioned it to anyone I've dated since then. Edit. I've gotten a couple DMs asking if I got jealous watching, which I think means people are considering it but having some healthy skepticism about their own reaction. Speaking for myself, it wasn't jealously inducing in the slightest. These weren't guys who were going to call her when I was out of town, or text dick pics. These were totally anonymous sticks through a hole in a wall. It might as well have been a flash dildo. Huge fake tits. I'm still into them a little, but it depends on the type of implant. I was once with this chick who had huge fake tits. They looked amazing, but they were hard as hell and the skin was so tight that I couldn't suck on them at all. It's my thing to suck on tits. She kept asking me to suck on them, but I literally couldn't. It was like trying to suck on a bowling ball. I definitely still licked them like a giant jawbreaker though, but it wasn't what I expected. Later I found out you could get the implant under the muscle tissue for a more natural look and feel, but they're more expensive. The 3 women I experienced with fake boobs all had the cheaper implants. I'm pretty good in bed. Except with the woman I married. She had only had a few orgasms in her life, and never with a man. I changed that, but it took work. She was not adventurous, but I slowly worked up to some butt tickles and finally some ass licking, and that was the secret ingredients that opened the gates to heaven. I could not overuse it. It needed to be kept something special to use once in a while to make sure she got to heaven. It's something I save only for the most special sex partners. Committed relationships with really good sex lives. Oversized cocks. It was a kink that came from too much hentai, and I had only been with one guy at that point. He was average, which there's nothing wrong with at all. My fiancé does indeed have a very large cock, and let me tell you, fellas and ladies, big cocks absolutely hurt. The prep work takes a lot longer and the initial breach just takes your breath away, but not in the good way. Still love him, and we've managed to work around it. But it makes me really want to give a pep talk to all the guys out there who are saddened by their average or below average penis. It only takes 3 inches to hit the G-spot, guys. Not really my kink, but my first experience with someone having a particular kink. My second partner ever. I was not ready for. We were going at it missionary style, except in my experience it was more of a drill sergeant kind of missionary. Meaning she would yell and scream at me while talking dirty and I'd be doing push-ups as fast as I could, basically on top of her. Needless to say, she was far more experienced. Anyways, things quickly escalated. Eventually she kindly yelled at me, punched me in the face. Me being the gentleman I am, I ignored her request. She continued yelling harder, faster, deeper, sweat pouring off my face. She sternly yells again, hit me. Confused, I awkwardly but gently slap/dragged my open hand across her face. My heart beating out of my chest. Suddenly the atmosphere changed into what I can only describe as a scene from The Exorcist. At the apogee of my push-up she screams, "Hit me, E." I slap her slightly harder but I only awoke the demons. She judo flips my ass over in this sexual pincer move, all the while sounding like a Spartan at Thermopylae. "Hit me, E." She flipped me again. I'm like a penguin in the water covered in sweat and spit from her battle cry. I'm terrified and I do what any man would do. I punched her dead fucking center and her fucking face and she loses it. Absolutely loved it. She flips me over, nose bleeding, slapping herself, slapping me, all the while bouncing up and down. I was mortified. She eventually finished her and at this point my bed looks like a murder scene. Afterwards she cuddled me like the little spoon I am. Doctor, I do not like her, Sam. I will not fuck her on a bus. I will not make a fuss, but I will defend myself when she gets rough. As a straight male who likes to mess with the prostate while enjoying my alone time, I often questioned if I was bi. So one night, I took a shot of liquor, cleaned my back door out, shaved, messed out with plugs I had from a previous relationship with a girl, and downloaded a gay hookup app. Met someone who seemed nice, genuine, and my type if I had one. I didn't really care for the person, mainly for what was downstairs, since that's all I was really curious about. Saving the details, I ended up going to his place. We watched a movie together. The horniness from convincing myself this is what I was interested, made one thing lead to another, and eventually, I found myself on all fours, with my ass up in the air. The second he entered me, I knew this wasn't it. But I didn't want to ruin all the good conversation or a night he seemed to be enjoying. So I told myself it may seem like a long time, but just suck it up. It'll just be a few minutes. He ended up finishing after 20-30 minutes. I told him I had a good time, as I was feeling stupid and awkward, and I had to get going. So I left home, and as I drove away I told myself definitely not into that shit. TLDR, thought I was bi. Regretted it the moment I was entered. Huge oversized tits. While I thought they were hot as all hell when I was younger, these days when I look at pics of women with giant breasts I can't help but wonder how much it must hurt their back to carry those things around. Lol. I've also lost most interest in fake boobs in general too. These days I'm much more interested in natural over fake ones, regardless of any size difference there might be. Daddy kink. I used to read a ton of fan fiction as a teenager, and I really thought that I had a daddy kink and that's what I'd like to call a future boyfriend or spouse during sex. Fast forward to now, I'm almost 27 years old and am about to get married to a man 8 years my senior. I have never, and will never, call him daddy during sex because it makes me so incredibly uncomfortable in real life. I won't kink shame anyone who enjoys calling their partner daddy or being called daddy, but I can't do it. Personally, found out that it was hot to read about in fanfiction as a teenager, but that, in reality, it makes my nether regions want to shrivel up and die. Impregnate. It was fun to pretend and hear her whisper "knock me up" or "give me your baby" until we decided to actually try to make a baby. Yeah, that killed the kink. What's worse was when we decided to try for real. We had been married 12 years at the point. It was hard to perform when knowing we were actually going to make a baby and all the changes that came along with it. Oh, don't get me wrong, it was a great decision, but once was good enough. Pulling out the porn out for this one. I used to be super into being a bull, as in for a cuck couple. I like the idea of being seen as an object of worship, at least sexually speaking, and from the outset, I clicked a lot of the boxes, not meaning to toot my own horn, but I'm good looking, in great shape and have a pretty big dick. I'm also a racial minority, white boy living in a very brown area of Mexico, which is a major plus for some of the people in the community. I went through with it a few times, and while it was a lot of fun, I quickly grew tired of it. The thing about cuckolding is that, as is the case with a lot of these more elaborate kinks, it's a performance and it takes a lot of work. Finding a couple, getting in touch, setting rules and arranging dates all took a lot of time, and when things did work out, The act of putting on my big man macho face and doing the equivalent of 12 rounds on some dude's wife was very physically and mentally taxing. Probably didn't help that I'm a very emotional dude, so I felt very bad about being rough with the girls. Felt terrible about being mean to the dudes and very quickly started developing attachments to the couples I was doing this with. Lol. I saw the writing on the wall and called it quits before I got in too deep. It was fun though, and I actually still talk to one of the couples I did it with. Could probably find more practical ways of making friends as an adult, though. At 19 I met my son's mom. She was into being choked. I was new to it. A couple months pass as we dated. She's at my house one as I hop in the shower. She comes in shortly after. As I had her pinned against the shower wall, she went limp. I jump out of the shower, frantically run into the living room where my 16-year-old brother is and scream I think I fucking killed her. After traumatizing him, she's laughing from the bathroom asking me for a dry towel. Never got back into choking gals. Pain or masochism in general. For 10 plus years I thought I was into it. I knew it made me feel better but didn't know why or how, and I ended up with a few injuries from myself or others going too far. Turns out that I just have a lot of sensory processing problems, which I thought everyone had, and that pain acts like an override switch. I have better ways to deal with it now. I still enjoy BDSM, but I'm more on the lightish spankings and the blindfold end of the spectrum rather than like needles and electric shocks. I used to think I was a sub, but I actually was just always doing all the work and never being made to feel wanted, which I confused for wanting to be dominated. I now know I still like to be dominant. I just want to feel like the partner is really into it as well and initiates shit. I can't speak for other men, but ladies, we appreciate being surprised with laundry and a good fuck we didn't have to initiate. Got talked into bondage by a pit I was dating. She looked like Scarlett O'Hara and Gone with the Wind, including the cruel curl to her lip. When I was all tied up, that lip turned into a sneer and that bitch really hurt me. She was putting all her weight on one elbow on my junk. I was starting to worry about permanent damage. I'm fighting for a dear life. Was finally able to get a leg free and kicked her up against the wall. She kept coming and I struggled for several minutes before finally getting the knots on the restraints loose. Never again. She was also into humiliation and said really terrible shit immediately after coming. Before I had my turn, her father was a disgraced preacher who continued cheating on his taxes after being kicked out of his church, and she had this weird compulsion of pulling her hair out. Never stick your dick into that level of crazy, no matter how much like Vivian Lee she looks. Nakedness. I used to get off on no clothes from head to toe while having sex, and now I prefer partial clothing. It's evolved such that I usually ask if my partner can keep a shirt on or to take our time getting out of the clothing. I think part of it is I like the feeling of cotton on my skin. And the other is I just got bored with the sex in the absence of mystery and anticipation once everything was off. Maybe this is more gaining a kink rather than having one and losing interest in it. I used to feel like the clothes were a wall that had to come down in order to have sex. Now they are like a contrast detail that highlight the naked parts better. Plus one, nudity used to be a huge turn on, but it turns out that was just because I was raised in a repressed Christian household that saw any excess skin as sexual. My partner likes bumming around the house in the nude after work, so now I don't even register it. We're just comfy, especially when it's hot out. Now, if I'm wearing an oversized knitted pullover and no pants, or they're wearing a shirt but unexpectedly no undies, my brain goes from just comfy to apostrophe in a millisecond, like a covert signal of consent for the grabby hands to go a-wandering. Being nude is still hot, but the come hither signals need to be way more explicit. Now I don't automatically link it to sex. Growing up as an introverted, awkward and horny teenager with terrible communication skills, I thought that I was insatiable and needed to find someone similar. Recently, I realized that I was just using sex and pleasure as a way to fill the emptiness and the loneliness inside. I was using a physical rush of endorphins to make up for a real, Emotional intimacy. Several weeks ago I called a close friend that I've been writing throughout the pandemic, someone that I really care about, for maybe 5 to 10 meters. The entire purpose of the call was to say hello, as a person, as a friend, in general, really. Before I could talk myself out of it. So, I call her. She thinks something is wrong because I'm calling her. I assure her that it's not laughing. Pause of silence and I say, I love you. Okay, that's it. That's the entire point of the call, while laughing with her and her being pleasantly surprised by the random affection. I felt amazing for like 40-45 minutes. Warm, happy, fulfilled, appreciated. I'm calling her again this weekend, probably Saturday. I'll find some things to talk with and say, I love you, again. I really just can't stress how much more authentic, genuine and moving it felt to be gifted with an illy in return. It sounds silly that something so simple could bring such long-lasting happiness. I felt shook. Said friend is 100% a romantic and way smarter than me, less than 3 greater than 3.